are intended to root out fraud and wasteful spending. Rishu says state and local politicians can also play a role in helping more kids get the care they need. She adds having health insurance can help families avoid costly medical bills. Most uninsured kids qualify for our Kids First Medicaid program for kids. The reason they're not enrolled is because of red tape barriers. We can streamline those so kids don't experience gaps in health coverage. We can do more outreach and to make sure that kids stay covered. I'm Frida Ross, Arkansas News Service. Find our trust indicators at publicnewsservice.org.
This is Charles Ray, Program Director of KABF 80.3 FM. I want you to meet Alice. Who is she? You and me. Alice stands for Asset Limited Income Constrained Employer. Alice is working families facing high housing.
Did you know what Alice promotion one time? Need you to know.
Okay,
We pick her up there.
Alice, thanks. Okay, I would love to do that.
Stage and family. Hey, policymakers and politicians.
Do you have some water in your office?
Who is Alice?
Greg, would you like a bottle of water?
Oh,
Big change.
yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
We want to provide water in here.
Email, call 494-6464-03.
I guess I gotta learn. Okay.
At benefitsrecipients.org. That's 646-494-6403 or benefitsrecipients.org. Let's organize now. If you're eligible, these are your rights.
Did you see it?
I haven't looked, I'm gonna look at you. I'll run down and get some out of my car as soon as I greet the people. That's low already on the line, I bet, yeah.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Hey, it's a beautiful Thursday morning here on the corner, 21st and Main here in the city of Little Rock. Hey, you heard the music. It's a little after 9 o'clock, and you know what time it is. It's time for the workplace. Exclusively here on KABF 88.3 FM, where we are the voice of the people, community radio. I'm your host of the workplace, Toney Orr. And as always in studio is the fierce, vibrant, vivacious, strong, the Reverend Dr. Denise Darnell. Good morning, Denise.
Grand Rising, everybody. Grand Rising, humans.
And also, we have in studio for the first time a new organizer to the United Labor Unions Local 100 team, Greg Moore. How you doing this morning, Greg?
Good morning. I'm feeling great.
Oh,
Great
yeah.
to be here in the studio.
Good, good. I want to get Greg on the air and just get him kind of indoctrinated to some of the things that he may be doing here with the workplace show. As you know, the workplace is sponsored and underwritten by United Labor Unions Local 100. So great to have Greg here today. And in a minute, I get great opportunity to tell you guys a little about himself. Any announcements today, Denise?
I do have announced. I want to remind you again about the event that's happening every Monday at 6 p.m. at Pyramid that's being hosted or facilitated by I always do this wrong. Perez. Her last name is Perez. Janine Latrice Perez. That's her name. I want to make sure that I remind you of that. And I can't remember right now, but I think I do have another announcement. When it comes back to me, I'll let you know.
Okay. Um, I don't have any announcements today. Uh, we- and so we just want to get right into it. So it's a lot of stuff. It's a lot of stuff going on. It's a lot of stuff going on in the work area. There has been some changes at DHS and some directors. So that's going to affect, right now they're coming out with a work requirement. They had a work requirement for SNAP and TBIT recipients. Now they put a work requirement on Medicaid. And in fact, that there were some stipulations that if you were disabled or you were a certain age or certain things that you didn't have to put that, they didn't have to have that work. Well, now everybody doesn't have to have some type of work requirement, or they're gonna have to do 80 hours of community service. So we're gonna talk about that a little. We're gonna talk about the issue. Boy. At one, in the past couple of weeks,
bit of science. You gotta work the angles on this.
You bet.
You have to be scrappy, creative, and that's one thing I really appreciate about United Labor Unions Local 100. So in the course of this campaign, Tony just turned around and said, "Hey, Greg, would you like to come work for me?" And I said, "Yes." I jumped at the chance. I used to be a graphic designer, spending all day on the computer in my pajamas, and now I'm driving around, talking to strangers, trying to get them to join the union, and I love it. It's a huge change. It is me coming into my purpose at 50 years old, and I'm loving it. So that's me.
Okay. And Hotel, going back to your question, you are correct, because where they're building these centers, they're building it not only in these large areas of farmland, which is where you can find that in almost any southern state, these large areas of farmland, but in large areas where it's unincorporated land. One of the problems, like just going back to the one that they're building in Sweet Home, is 740 acres of this farmland. Now, this is good farmland, but once that data center is built, that land will not be, it's not going to be good for anything else. You can't farm on it anymore. And so those are some of the things. But last week, as we're talking about data centers, last week we went to the Pulaski County Quorum Court and we asked for a moratorium. And that was weird. They voted for the moratorium. Then they come back the next day and say, "Oh, we miscounted." Well, hold up, how you gonna miscount right there? The people are right there. They're saying yay and nay, but you miscounted. So now the moratorium is in effect. And so a lot of us believe it was an okey doke. Yeah. A okey doke right there. But then the city of Little Rock and Mayor Frank Scott openly said that there will be no moratorium from the city board. Well, Kathy Peck, who's a board member, and Kathy Webb, who's a board member, they did a op-ed on Sunday, last Sunday's paper, talking about it. So now there were board members on Tuesday who pushed back and asked for a moratorium because this deal was done in the dark, and that's how data centers, that's how the investors work. They come in, and the one thing they ask for at the beginning is a non-disclosure agreement. You can't tell anybody about this. You can't, we're not going to answer any questions. We're not going to tell you who the investor is. We're not going to tell you anything. All we want you to do is to agree that we can build it. And so that's one of the problems that a lot of people are asking questions.
So here's a comment from Lowe. By limiting immigrants, ideas are limited. China has built data centers on the bottom of the ocean, thereby not being landlocked.
Interesting.
So that is an interesting perspective. So you limit, by limiting the immigrants, you don't need the land. I guess you're saying you don't need the land the way that you did for it to be farmed because of people who are doing that. That's the way I understand his comment. And so I think it's also interesting to talk about the creativity and innovation that China has in how they decided to approach it.
I do think we should be looking at China. I mean, I feel like as Americans, we're just kind of like tunnel vision, and we don't think about what to do. I mean, look over at China. Like, they've got like high-speed rails. They're building like solar stuff. I mean, they're showing us the way.
Well, I think one thing that China is doing that is so different, because China, their capitalism is, they still look at capitalism,
Yeah.
but that capitalism, a lot of it is locked into their people.
Exactly.
We're going to take care of our people.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing. China isn't as communist like Russia that people think.
Mm-hmm.
China is more socialist.
Yeah.
We're going to take care of our people.
Yeah.
And because they have so many people, they have to do things that are innovative to make sure that things still work. Where here, people, the U.S. look at its residents, the majority of its residents, as cash cows. How much money can I make off your body?
Here the the capitalists run the government.
Yes,
There they have capitalists, but they don't run the government. The government runs them.
right.
Keeps them in line. People can get like, they're, like, I think that some CEOs who have been found, you know, like here, they just like, you have companies that will like, destroy the environment, that will like ruin, that will kill children, you know, a lot of these policies. Oh, we got a phone call.
Caller, you're there.
Yes, good morning,
Good morning.
to you and everyone. You know, I'm reading something about China, how they start their children off with 2 years of like social environment before they do anything. They have a more united other peoples in China to get the best out of people. They can say whatever they want to say about the government, but they ain't got all these penitentiaries and all this shit going on. So I have to now China got some real technology. They more advanced than the United States. A lot of your fancy y'all work, you know, y'all know what y'all can do. That's all you can do. Thank you.
One thing that people don't understand about this country, and it was like this from the inception of this country. The founders of this country have not invented anything. They haven't been created. Everything in this country has been created. Invented by Black people, Native Americans, Hispanics. You look at everything, and what we have piggybacked off of what somebody else has created. That's why China has they're the biggest chip manufacturer. They're the biggest pharmaceutical manufacturer. They're the big, everything. Tell me what is not made in China. Because the one thing that as an entity, as a country, either you're going to be a consumer or you're going to be a producer. If you are a consumer, then you are at the mercy of the producer. Because now the producer can tell, and I think we talked about this sometime, Denise, is that if you are working, that means you are producing. Once you become your own boss, you become your own creativity. Now you can decide, how you want to set your price on your product, how you can do that as a business owner or, as somebody who has created something. And that's the difference. I think what they push innovations and creativities in other countries, we stifle it. And so it becomes problematic. Just like, when you said that about the data centers in China, they're looking at like, why should we waste our land?
Yeah.
If we can build one on the ground.
We got another phone call. The phone boards are lighting up.
It does a lot of times. Call you there.
Hello, this is Urban. There's a no on.
Okay. And so that's one thing that's one thing we have to think about. And I know technology is what it is. But eventually, just like anything else, data centers are going to shrink. Because that's the next step. How do we make it small? How do we, all this power that we need to run AI, how do we make it smaller? And once it changes, what happens now? All you have to do is look at factories. At one point in time, you had all these factories around. Now, a lot of those factories, you don't need as many people. You don't need as many much space to do a lot of these things now, but you still have those buildings. So, so that's something.
Just look at computers. Computers used to fill a room, and now they're like a little tiny thing.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah. And so those are some of the questions, and I think another thing that we have to get, I think people have to start looking at is that we have to open our eyes because they made woke to be something so negative, but people need to wake up and see what's happening. When you see what's going on with this country, you see what's going on with this administration, if you don't wake up, then you're going to end up, in a place where it's going to be so detrimental to you. And I don't know if I don't know if a lot of people will be able to climb out of it if they're not willing to make some changes now, to look at some things in a different light now.
Yeah.
What else? We're going to talk about the data centers.
I got something that I wanted to mention, it's direct democracy in Arkansas. So 100 years ago, Arkansas became one of few states, or maybe like 25 states, so maybe half, that where you can propose a citizen-led initiative. Like citizens can go around, if they want something, if they want the rest of the people to vote on an amendment to the Constitution or a new law, they can do a ballot initiative. If people sign it, you get enough signatures, it goes on the ballot, and other Arkansans can vote for it. But our Arkansas legislature is trying to kill that. They've been trying to kill that for years. And there's this summer while you're out, you're going to be accosted by people probably asking you to sign some petitions. Make sure you sign the one for Arkansas ballot initiative, direct democracy, because we need to keep that. That's what this ballot initiative is saying, that the Arkansas legislature cannot kill direct democracy in Arkansas. And we need to have that on the ballot. We need to have that.
And we vote on.
Yeah, because and we see it playing out now. Going back to the data center, because I forget what year, it was a few years ago, that the General Assembly passed that
amendment that said that nobody in the state, no municipality, no city, no local government could stop data centers from being built. Period.
They just made a law.
They just made so what they did was took the power of the local government and the local people. It took their power away, because now we, the state, are going to tell you exactly. So a lot of times it makes people feel like, well, why do we have a city council? Why do we have a mayor? Why do we have this? If the state is going to tell us.
Yeah.
But when you look at what the state has done, is what the federal government is trying to do too, is that we want to control everything. And so that's something that we have to really pay more attention to, and something we have to do something about. As we always said, all roads lead to the ballot box. Mm-hmm. So Denise, let me get your take on the issue of the data centers and the moratoriums.
I'm not really sure that I have an opinion about the data centers in this moment, because what I'm thinking about is trying to figure out how I can navigate better my own life so I'm not falling into the traps of the system. Because when I've been doing a lot of transactions lately, a lot of them. And one of the questions that I ask is, what methods of payment do you receive? And a lot of times they'll tell me, and then they'll say, but if you use a credit card, we're going to charge you a 3.5 processing fee. And so I started thinking about this. I'm like, okay, the world has pushed us into using cell phones, right? Mm-hmm. Then what the world did was say, so now all the businesses, you get an app for your business that we can download on the phone. So the more apps that you download on the phone, the more storage it takes up. So then you get the storage people, you get the phone company saying, oh, you're out of storage. You need to buy some more storage. And so now you got to buy the storage. And so they're getting money out of you. They're exploiting you in that way. And so then they say, okay, well, you can even, you can do that. So you can use your phone and all of that to Apple Pay, like all of these grand things that you can do. And so then you say, well, if you want to be a business owner and you want people to pay, now that we're going to all this smart stuff, you can get the tap and all of that on for your business. But the business and the credit card holder or whoever, the tap machine, whoever that is,
they're in partnership because they say, the business says, okay, they are gonna charge me to allow you to use this card. And so instead of me paying it, I'm gonna make you pay it. So the 3.5% is actually what they are supposed to be paying because they are the ones who are the business. But they have passed it on to us. And because we moving in this technological way, we don't carry cash anymore, right? Everybody's using a card. And so I was thinking, can you just stop for a moment and think about how much money that they are making just on 3.5% just from you using your card. But what else are we gonna do? Because so they force us into this way of living that they continue to benefit from every step of the way. So I'm sitting over here trying to figure out how, because I know I'm paying attention, but I'm like, how do you even begin to see what the end goal is going to be? And that's where my mind is how can we figure out how to step outside of this conditioning that we are always into because we're not realizing what the end is going to be.
Yeah, and that, even though, call again there.
Yes, I'm thinking like along the lines of what she's thinking about all of this. We don't realize the top people who run the world, we don't see that we on the bottom is in a wall. In order for them to stay on top, they have to keep oppressing you on the bottom, but you are the one supporting the top. But there's a wall going on with it. I mean, they don't want you to ever come. You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a wall going on. The same kind of wall going on in our land and all that. We had a wall that keep us on the bottom. They don't want us to rise up. How can you be a politician going, your job don't pay for maybe $200,000 a year, but you come out with billions of dollars? Well, people, we really get screwed back real bad. Thank y'all.
And so, what you just said, Denise, connects directly to the data center.
Yeah.
That's why, if you look at who is building the data center, it's Google, it's Oracle, it's Meta. Who makes the phones? Who runs the phones? Google, Meta, Oracle. Who's in bed with the credit card companies? Because the credit card companies, businesses, because we were pushed. Because now, basically, it's almost like you have to have a phone.
Yeah, you can't do it.
You have to, it's some things you can't even do without an app, because it used to be you had payment centers, to go pay your bills. Even now they charge you. It used to be you could go pay unless you mail it in. But how many people actually have checks? Nobody's mailing in.
And even if you do have a check, and I'm glad you brought that up, because the other day, I was discombobulated, and I did not have I didn't have my credit card. But I did have a check. I just so happened to have, I'll tell you why I had a check. Because one of the people I was doing the transaction with, I asked the method of payment, and they said they were going to charge 3.5% if I used the credit card, but they took checks. And so I said, okay, well, I'll write a check because I'm not paying this. Anytime I can avoid the fee, I'm going to avoid the fee. And so that's why I had a check. So I had two of them just in case something happened. Here I am at the gas station, and I didn't realize I didn't have my credit card. Oh my goodness, I didn't even have my phone. Y'all, that's how discombobulated I was that day. And so I said, but I do have my check. So I go, and I tell the man I need to pay, I want to, get some gas with check. He's like, a check? I was like, yeah, I want to write a check for the gas. He's like, do you know how much it's going to be? Well, no, because I figured you would turn the pump on, and when I finish, I'll write the check for whatever it is. And he was like, no, you got to put up some. I said, so you want to just say $40? He was like, okay. And so I was writing the check for $40, and he was like, well, I don't really know what to do with this. I was like, you don't know what to do? I don't really know. So y'all don't take checks? We take checks, but I ain't never seen one. And it's asking me now to put in the transaction ID. Do you know what the transaction ID is? I said, do you think maybe it might be the number of the check. He was like, well, I put all them numbers in. I said, all them numbers? I said, wait, is this a number? So I pointed to the check number. Is this oh, no, I ain't put, that's a check, I ain't put. And so even if you have a check, because the world has pushed you away from that, they are not even orienting people. They are not even training their people how to even use a check because they don't expect you to use it. Here's another thing I was thinking about. I read this on Osiris Bally's page last night, or whatever night it was. Little Rock bought 400 acres of land near Sweet Home in 2024 and then sold it to a holding company for Google's future data center. Little Rock owned that land for 7 months or less before selling it. So again, the plan is it's a pipeline. They already see it. And when we had Dr. Karama Neal on the air that day, she was talking about heirs property, and she was trying to stress the importance of y'all getting your family together, getting this land together, because the number one thing they're going to come for is land. And so that's all part of the plan. So when they bought it, the 400 acres in 2024, I didn't know it would have been for the data center. I didn't know that part. And so first of all, I didn't even know they bought it. But I'm saying that when things happen, we don't know what it's for until later. But by then, you're already hooked into it.
Yeah, and you're correct, because that's what happened, because you have people, where, and this is the way it's set up, is that you have enough concerns in this one moment that you can't see next week. You just worry about, can I get through today?
Oh, yeah.
Can I make it through today?
Yeah.
And so, but you have people who are looking to next week. They look at next year.
That's called organization.
Yeah.
They're organized.
So when they came in and they...
This is still playing. Stop this. This is still playing.
Oh, okay, I got it. So when they came in, and that's why they want to non-disclose, they came in and said, hey, we want to do that. Don't tell nobody. And so they said, this is what I need for you to do. And that's where somebody on that city board, somebody in the city made some money.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to buy it for $400 million. But no telling what we sold it for.
Right.
Because it's a non-disclosure tool. We can't tell nobody. So that meant some business people, somebody made that money. Going back to what we were talking about with the city of Sheridan, they openly prostituting themselves. Like, hey, come build a data center here, please. I mean, they advertise it to everybody. We want one.
Right.
We want one.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Caller, you're there. Caller. Caller. Hello.
I just wanted to let you know that music's playing while y'all talking.
Yeah, thank you, caller. I didn't realize I had the switch all the way down, so I really appreciate you. My co-host called it.
Cause Lo told me.
Okay, so thank you. See, that's why it takes the community. Thank you, sir. And so that's one of the things that's happening, and it's only going to get worse. So all the apps you run, the streaming you do on your TV, your iPad, your computer, all these things tie into the data center, because that's what's processing everything. Everything you're doing is being processed by that data center. And that's how they hook you. Once you get hooked, how do you separate? I was talking to someone the other day, and we were laughing so hard because we remember we were talking about telephones, public phones. Me and Cornelius, before he came on the Cornelius Maven.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Yeah, before he came on the air on Tuesday, he was in my office, and we were talking. We were talking about how you had to go to a payphone and put a nickel, a dime, or a quarter in to use the payphone. There's no public. I don't think I've seen a public.
No, you can't do that now.
I've seen a public.
No, in some cities I've seen you just have a shelter where you're supposed to go in with your cell phone. So you still got to have a cell phone.
So you don't have that that, and then I was listening to a promotion for the Arkansas Black Rodeo down in Pine Bluff. And they said the Pine Bluff Convention Center is a cashless facility.
Okay.
I'm like, I mean, and in some places, they will tell you, we don't take cash.
Yeah.
We don't take cash. You know, so they are forcing you, you know, to use these systems to make money off of you, and there's nothing you can do. Now, and I hear people say we have to get off. You know, how do you get off the grid? How do you get off these systems?
You can't get off the grid.
And even so,
but hold on, you can, and let me use grid as a metaphorically, right? So you're talking about the grid like getting out of technology, right? I'm just thinking about it in different ways. So I have decided that my home is going to be a home of music, right? Filled with music. So it's not going to have any TVs. So before my mama lived with me, I didn't have TVs anyway, so that's not a big deal. So I was talking to somebody about it, and I was like, oh, I just think it's going to be great. They had a music filled air. And she said, you ain't going to have no TV. I said, no. You got to have a TV. Why do I have to have a TV? Well, when people come over there, they're going to want to watch TV. When you're guests, they're going to want to watch TV. I was like, first of all, I am not creating a space for my guests. I'm creating a home for myself. Secondly, if they come over to my house, we should be sitting around enjoying each other. Why are we watching the TV anyway? She's like, girl, you're going to have to get a TV. So when you talk about getting off the grid, I would consider TV a grid.
okay.
And we do not have the propensity to say, girl, I don't want to watch. I can't get rid of that TV. Why can't you? Yeah. You haven't always had all of these streaming opportunities. You haven't always had all these channels. You haven't always had all of this constant bombardment of sometimes just ludicrousy that's on TV. And some of us are falling prey to what we see on TV. So why not unplug? But many people are not willing to get off the grid. And I'm using the grid. That's why I just want to pick up the grid.
Yeah. And I think you're right. Because when I say grid, when I envision the grid, I'm talking about phones. I'm talking about being tied into electricity. I'm talking about being tied into, you know, all the things that I have to pay. I have to pay to have. Then if I can get away from that and just do it natural. I was reading an article about this community in Colorado. You know. This neighborhood and it's not completely up in the mountains, but it's right around the foothills. You know, they get the water. They have a reservoir for water from melting snow. They have their own, they built their own like septic system, and they don't use any electricity. They got enough wood to light their homes and different things. And when you tell people that, people will say, well, oh, you living like a caveman, or you living like this wilderness, like the what's that Alaskan what's it it's a show that comes on the History Channel, Alaskan. Life below zero.
Okay.
Yeah. But when you start talking to people like that, and they have to make that decision, because once you get hooked into something, and it's just like even if you do, you say you get rid of credit cards, you get rid of your cell phone, and you just don't have cash. Now you still gonna run into a problem, because it's gonna be some things you can't pay in cash. One of the things I run into is that I don't have Cash App, I don't have Venmo, I don't have none of those things. So sometimes I run into people and say, well, let me Cash App you. I said, well, I don't have a Cash App.
Right.
And they said, well, let me admit, I don't have that. And they're like, well, they look lost, because how do I give you this money? How do I get this money to you? I'm like, go to the bank and get it. And it's almost like, go to the bank. You mean, go inside. Kind of like what you were talking about with the person at the gas station.
And needless to say, I didn't get my gas.
Calling you're there.
Yeah, what's up with the loud music in the background?
It's still going on?
In the background.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
It shouldn't be anymore, but
No,
for him to
there's
call
no
me.
music playing.
Yeah, you hear it right now? You still hear it right now?
I know what's going on. That's
what's
okay.
going on.
Okay, yeah. Now you should hear it stop.
So we've been talking, have they heard anything we've said?
Well, they heard it, but it's just, I thought once because I didn't have it clicked, and I didn't have automate on, I thought the AD was just gonna shut off. But it did. So it kept going. So.
Everybody talking, Low, Miss Mary, everybody talking about their music.
Hey.
I didn't know what was going on. I was trying to off the radio, looking.
And so then Ezekiel is asking the question, are we listening to two programs?
So I'm gonna say this over these 100,000.
He's still talking sometimes. Okay.
At least we had a good laugh today. But the only way I can see that we be able to overcome this, everything going, he's destroying and start all over again or something. I've really been in some deep thought about all this. So I come in conclusion, I said I was just going to stay smile and just don't try to take care of my little business that's going on. Because I don't have the intelligence to figure it out to fix it. I don't see nobody else fix it. So it's kind of like you can eat this, you can do this, and everybody, but people still dying and getting sick. So I don't know which way to go. Thank y'all.
I'm gonna say this over these 100,000 watts. I said it. People who know me know that this is my opinion on this one subject. I can't stand technology. I don't like it. I know I have to live with it. I have to adjust to it, but I don't like it because the one thing about it is just like with the music playing in the background, you know, you try to be aware of certain, a lot of times.
But I think that's problematic though, right? And I think that's part of this whole conversation that we're having. The world is technological now, right? The world is running off technology. And so in order for you to function well, you're going to have to embrace technology. If you got a bad attitude about it, you're not going to embrace it as well, which is going to make you more frustrated because you're not going to be able to get the things done that you need to get done. And so I feel like there are some times where we do have to get in on the flow of what's happening in our world just so that you can live better. Because I know how frustrated you get when you can't get the stuff to work. And so perhaps, and I think so some of us, we can't get off that grid or make that change because we gonna be protesting because so maybe we should have a different change of mind. Change of mind.
We started this conversation talking about China. In that case, you've got like government programs. They're doing technology that actually helps people. They're like putting in the high-speed rail all throughout you can go like visit your mom, like get on, blaze across the country. They're doing stuff that actually helps people. I mean, technology, I kind of want to stand up for technology.
I know, right? Me too.
There's a lot of technology that's really great. It's just that our technology is like shot through.
It's not the technology, it's how you use it.
It's who's in control.
Who's in control.
That's what it is.
Bob Humbug.
Okay, we ain't the ones frustrated.
Good morning, Sister Denise.
Good morning, Ezekiel.
Hey, what's up?
Noel and those listening and participating on the radio. Technology is okay. I mean, you mentioned paper checks. Folks transfer money now through Zelle and PayPal or Cash App or whatever that is, and there's so much deception going on, if you will. I want to put that out there because no one's missing it. You have to keep up with the beat, like they say. You know, you have to stay with the flow in order to progress. You know, to keep with the beat that's been around for go to, you used to get the newspaper and just read the paper. Now it comes with an app. Computer. What do they call those little things that they send out with you to get the newspaper?
I don't know, 'cause I don't know. What do they send out when we can get the newspaper?
Tablet to get a newspaper subscription. You know, they used to just deliver the newspaper to your house.
Oh, you didn't have to have a subscription, he's saying, but now you have to have
To
it.
get a subscription, now you need a tablet.
Yeah.
Tablet, turn
Yeah,
on
but-
and off.
It's like an electronic
You
version.
you don't watch them, you know, you have to have an electronic device to buy the newspaper to read. That's the way it works now with the Arkansas Democrat Gazette. So to make a long story short, these technological advances come with all different types of caveats or ways to, excuse the expression, screw you, mess you out of your whatever's yours. You never know what you're getting into until it's maybe too late. That's how so many folks are being taken advantage of, if you will. There's a bombardment of, if you have a telephone or a cell phone, half your calls are legitimate and the other half, you don't know what they are. And they even come up as spam, and you can have something legitimate going into spam. So it's a dog if you do, a dog if you don't world now with technological advances. And you mentioned the property that was bought and sold without anyone knowing anything about it. Just think about that land over there between St. Vincent's Hospital and the War Memorial Stadium, that so-called War Memorial golf course over there that's been laying dormant for just like a fallow field that's not being planted. Just think about that. Something's going on with that land use or non-use, and it used to be a gem in the city. I'm talking about to have an urban golf course is like something a lot of cities wish they did have. People would pay untold amounts of money to have something like that, and there it is sitting over there with no use, and you can hear all the different lies about why it's not being used. We know it's not true because everything they want to happen in this inner city, they allow to happen, and the things they don't want to happen, they don't allow it to happen. You don't have the improvement of the streets. You have cities that have improvements, and then you have parts of the city where they still have trenches or ditches running on the side of the street instead of paving them over. So I get off there and let someone else call and tell me why our city is so deceptive in what it does, even though we have these so-called good leaders in that. Well, hopefully I haven't offended anybody, but if I did, then you're an elected official or you're an official that was appointed, and you just take the blame because you're getting taxpayer money. Thank you.
I guess it would be, and I do agree with both of you. There are great advantages to technology, and with me, because I'm a hybrid, I spent, half of my life, it's only within the last, I'd say, 30 years, really less than that. It's only the last 20 years. So this is 2026. So if you go back to 2006.
Okay.
So that's when, because prior to 2006, you had to go, if you had a cell phone, the cell phone just a little flip phone, or you had to go put minutes on it or whatever. So the last 20 years, it's been this explosion in technology. So, excuse me. So I'm almost 65. So 20 years ago, I'm 45. So, 44. So I spent the majority of my life living without this technology. So now that I have it, yes, just looking at the radio station, the first radio show I did at Washington in 1988. I had turntables, I had vinyl, you didn't push a button and, you know, the spots ran. You had what they call a cart. You had to put the card in, have to put the little, like an 8-track. You had to put it in and let it run. So yes, technology has been very innovative. It's been very useful. But then there are times when I look at it and it's like, I look at it and said, I don't want to say it's too complicated, but because it becomes so much easier with technology, you go, whatever it is, you know, you try to have a balance. So when the balance is off, because now people don't communicate anymore. People don't go. It used to be you had to go and talk to somebody.
Now you got a Zoom call.
Yeah. Or now you text.
Now you're texting.
You know, you're texting, and you know, and yes, it's a convenience with texting, but now you lose that communication.
People don't want you to call.
Yeah.
They just text me instead.
They just text you. And so now you have all these different things that take away. It takes away from the conversation. It takes away from in-person relationships. It takes away, you know, now where it used to be, they talk about children who are obese, and they talk about adults who are obese. Well, yes, going back to what you said, Denise, if you at home watching TV all day and you're not doing anything, you know, when I see, you know, 3-year-old children operating a phone, and I understand they need to learn how to do technology, but, you know, now the phone, when they get in school, it's
But see,
hard.
I feel like what Greg was saying a few minutes ago. I feel like your attack is on technology, and I feel like the challenge should be to the parents. The challenge should be to whoever, you know. So of course, if a 3-year-old is able to work the phone, that's fine.
Right.
The problem is you don't want them with the phone all day long.
Right.
You don't want it to where they can't do anything else. And they throw a tantrum. My little nephew threw a tantrum because we couldn't find his iPad. See, to me that's the kind, but that's governed not by technology. Is not doing that. Your environment is allowing that. So it's not technology. Again, it's how we use it. It's how we allow it to control us or not. That's the issue.
I would agree.
Wait,
I
here comes.
can see that. I can see that.
Here's low. Competition and innovation are some building blocks of business. In the 1940s, a concept called Kaizen was used by the Japanese in their rebuilding efforts after the war. The concept simply states that no idea is useless, even if it came from the janitor. Wait now, let me say that again. The concept simply states that no idea is useless, even if it came from the janitor. And I think that's a great thing to talk about, because when we're talking about TVs and technology and all of that, another thing that the technology has done, it has defined for us what success looks like. It has defined for us what relationships should look like. It has defined all of these things. And so we pit each other against each other. Oh, girl, well, if you just a janitor, you can't tell me nothing. Oh, girl,
job that needs to be done.
Let me tell you something. My mama taught me this. She said, because we were all school teachers. She said, let me tell you, when you walk in that school, 2 people you better have an authentic and genuine relationship with, the secretary and the janitor. She ain't said nothing about no principal. She ain't said nothing about no assistant principal. She said the secretary and the janitor. She said make them your friends, but it can't be fake, right? It's an authentic and genuine relationship. And even when I go to the doctor with my mama, I don't want to talk to the doctor. I don't want to talk to the nurse. Because even though the doctor got doctor and you making more money, you're not the one that knows the information, right? So yeah.
Yeah. And I think a lot of what we're talking about, it goes back to that basic thing of relationships.
Yeah.
Relational.
Yeah.
I think because we've gotten away from relationships, you know, and understanding, looking at people for the human being that they are, you know, and the creativity and the thoughts that they have. Because going back to the janitor, that janitor knows some things that I don't care who runs the school, I don't care who runs the building, that janitor knows some things that it's great. Because if something goes wrong in that building of the school, you ain't gonna call the principal for some things. You're gonna call janitor, I had a conversation with somebody one time, and I told them about what I do. And I said, at 4 o'clock in the evening, that somebody's getting ready to lose their job. They're not calling the doctor, they're not calling the plumber, they're not calling somebody with initials, and they're not calling them. They're gonna call a union person. Hey, that doesn't mean that doctor's job or your education or what you've done as a profession is any less. But at certain times, you're gonna need the person that knows more about your situation.
And it also means that it's not anymore. Just because you have letters after your name, your job is no more important than the janitor, and that's what I think we do. We decide that yes, it is. The more letters, the better, and that's not the case at all. And so we have to. I know every time I serve a church as pastor, I always make it a point not to make any changes the first year. Because I want to see what's going on, unless it offends my theology. Now, if it offends my theology, I'm going to make that change. But otherwise, I'm just going to sit back and watch. Because one of the things I've learned, even in the church, is that you can have the head of the deacon board, you can have the head of the this and the head of the that, but that don't mean they are in charge. You have to watch who the congregation looks to, because there are members of the congregation that may not hold a title, but they are the ones that are leading the church. And so if you are only focused on the title, you miss the power of the relationships that are happening among you, because all you want to talk to is the head. You ain't going to get too far just trying to talk to the head by himself. I know that for a fact. And so that's why we have to allow for this opportunity. Cornelia said it best: diversify your relationships, so that you can grow together and use everybody's skills to get the job done.
That's a great way to end this show
it's
today.
Okay.
Yeah. Time flies when you're having a great conversation.
Time flies whether you're having fun or not.
So I want to thank everybody that called in today. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for participating. Any last comments before we go?
I'll give it to Greg.
Well, Denise, you were sounding like a labor organizer.
I used to be one.
The relationships that are there, look for the actual relationships. Who that people actually look to, because there are leaders among us, and it's like those are the people we look to in these times. And I think we need to get organized to make this better, and to deal with this technology. Let's head on out.
Okay. Well, I hope everybody have a great weekend, a great rest of your day. Tune in on Tuesday for Community Voices with Denise and me. Next Thursday for the workplace with me and Denise. And I think I got a guest coming in next Thursday.
I'm glad you said that. We have guests every Tuesday on Community Voices, so make sure that you show up. This Tuesday is Garbo Hearn. So please show up on Tuesday for Community Voices at 9 a.m. to hear the story of her success.
Okay. Everybody have a great day, like I said.
That was the announcement I was supposed to make.
And we talk to you later. Peace out.